over 2 decades of democracy in Nigeria, there has been roadblocks to evolving an ideal that will deliver the dividends of good governance to the people who actually matters in a democracy. Conflicts triggered by political competition, communal squabbles, ethnic, religious, and resource allocation rivalries, and the grand master of it all, corruption, have continually posed a major threat to democracy in Nigeria. Many government institutions do not adequately engage with citizens or the private sector and lack the capacity to carry out their mandates, while most civil society organizations lack the capacity and the resources to effectively engage with government and advocate for change. This is Democratic Blueprint, a platform for a critical analysis of the status quo, setting an agenda for the ideal, and repositioning the mindset of the key actors in the game plan for a better Nigeria through good governance and sustainable development. Welcome on board. I am Charles Ibe. And on this edition, examining the role of the civil society and media in a fledgling democracy, restructuring Nigeria, a case for the viability of the Nigerian states. And we will also bring you updates from the National Assembly, the seat of legislation for good governance in Nigeria's democracy. And that will be after this break. Join us again.
Throughout the nation, nobody will find, nothing will happen. We hope so.
We can do anything. We are ready to die for our right.
Don't fight, don't do anything. Just go and vote, stay and wait for the results.
Thanks for staying tuned, and I'll be joined in a conversation with a civil society advocate and a media practitioner in the course of this program, while you can be a part of the conversation by sending your thoughts and contributions on the comment section of our social media handles and also on the numbers showing on your screen. And don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons to ensure a regular update on the program. Meanwhile, although the elites and the upper class dominate the political structures in Nigeria, civil society organizations are becoming a voice for democratic reforms in recent years. Their efforts to push for inclusive governance has been successful in many ways, but a majority of these organizations still lack the capacity and resources to carry out their functions effectively. Although notable international donor agencies and NGOs such as the USAID, European Union, and the likes work directly with a diverse representation of Nigerian civil society and media organizations, building their internal management capacity, strengthening their ability to engage with the government on issues of fiscal accountability, budget monitoring, and transparency, among several thematic areas, much is still left to be desired from the outcome and impact of the efforts of governance on Nigeria, especially when it comes to delivering the dividends of democracy to the masses. Let's take a look at this report and join the conversation afterwards.
In Nigeria, civil societies and the media have both played a key role in the country's evolving governance processes by deepening the democratic space in the quest for attaining good governance. With the exit of the military rule in 1999, the focus of civil society organizations and the media in the country has shifted from defense against repression and abuse of human rights to serving as watchdogs by holding government accountable, demanding efficient and effective electoral systems, and calling for transparent funds. Through the charge of the civil societies and the media, citizens are now realizing that democracy should extend beyond conducting free and fair elections to increasing demands for governing processes that are transparent and devoid of bureaucratic and administrative corruption, nepotism, diversion of public funds, and looting of public assets.
Civil society organizations, otherwise known as non-governmental organizations, as well as also referred to as pressure group in the society, they have fundamental role to play. That's why it behoves on even 1999 Constitution that we operate now to make elaborate provision and even giving them powers under section of the 1999 Constitution, that is freedom of association, so that citizens can have free interaction, freedom of sharing of ideas, and free expression of their rights to exert or to hold government responsible, and they have been doing, and they are up and doing.
In the struggle to promote good governance in Nigeria, some civil society organizations have been in the forefront of the struggle for accountability, transparency and campaigns against funds and financial recklessness by agitating for openness and information on governmental affairs, monitoring governance issues and brought excesses to public scrutiny. For instance, the media and civil societies have exposed several corrupt wrongdoings by government officials, leading to the suspension and resignation. Some organizations and labor unions have also launched campaigns against corruption and some policies of government considered injurious to the society. Elections in Nigeria since 1999 have always been monitored by domestic and international civil societies and the media. Their reports often indicted politicians and security agents of complicity in the electoral processes, while little of such findings and recommendations are adhered to by government.
We cannot also give them a pass mark, that is the civil organizations, all of them like 100% pass mark, because some of them, as I earlier said, are being used, and you cannot rule out that one in a society or in a democracy, especially like a complex society like Nigeria.
Specialized advocacy groups such as the Center for Democracy and Development, Center for Research and Documentation, Center for Advanced Social Science and African Leadership Forum, among others, have contributed in research and advocacy, established cordial relationship with foreign donors and Nigerian policymakers, in attempts to promote good governance and deepen democratic landscape in the country. In recent times, the country has witnessed a spike in the work of civil society organizations, working on various socio-economic issues, to re-establish the culture of transparency, accountability, integrity and respect for human dignity, in order to attain good governance. Despite these efforts, Nigeria is still socio-economically backwards, while abject poverty, rising insecurity, high child and maternal mortality rates and lack of accountability and transparency, with increasing corruption, seems to be thriving in the country, leaving much to be expected from the civil society in promoting good governance and accountable interaction between citizens and government.
In most of these organizations, you find that at least certain vested interests are permitting within the psyche of that organization. So long as civil society organizations are operating with the level of objectivity, with the patriotism desired, with the focus and with all the required nationalism content in their activities, definitely they will continue also to have the support and loyalty of the and good followership of the citizens. Otherwise, they will cease to be civil society organizations and they will become a different organizations.
Civil society organizations need to do more in holding the government accountable. Government, on its part, needs to work with the civil society groups by considering its criticism for the sake of the country's growing democracy.
Thanks for staying tuned. I have with me right here in the studio a civil society advocate, Victor Tehemba. Thanks for joining.
Thank you very much.
And also a media practitioner, May 11.
Thank you very much.
All right. Welcome on board, gentlemen.
Thank you.
And let's start with the civil society. No, there has been so many civil society organizations in recent times, and obviously doing their own bit to move the polity forward, and especially when it comes to ensuring dividends of democracy, monitoring the key players in the democracy, and also being like a voice for the voiceless, the grassroots in democracy. Now, what do you think, or what do you say about the fact that despite a whole plethora of civil society organizations with very laudable teams, with very, all of them are with different ideologies and thematic areas that they focus on, we still have so much, there's so much left to be desired in the democracy of Nigeria today?
Okay, first of all, thanks for inviting me to be here once again. And you have to understand that civil society organizations will only from their own part try to influence or get government to do some little things right. Things that they think that are wrong. So like you said, some different CSOs, they take up a particular idea that they want to changes. So you have different CEOs that are interested in electoral reforms. Some are basically kind of interested in accountability and less transparency. So you have like Sarah up there doing things like that. You have those who are much about electoral reforms, like I said earlier. So you have like Young Africa. You have those who are about raising young leaders. You have raising new voices. So they all basically play their part. Now that is the most that they can do to try and put the pressure on government to get government to do the right thing. But however, as much as we have those civil society organizations that are very genuine in their own actions and what they need to, what they have to do, there are other civil society organizations that basically came up as a result as a less political tool in the hands of politicians. You know, when they need them for protests or just go out there and show some certain support and basically all of that. So it's the reason why. So it's like even in that civil society space, there are still division because you have different people with different intentions. So if you have, and again, one other thing that might also be that the reason why you don't even get that much result is individuality of this CSO. Most of them, instead of let's not collaborate, they would rather pursue this agenda on their own and all that.
All right, thank you very much. And now, Mr. Clay, talking about the media right now, just like the civil society organization, the media, their role, it cuts across. In fact, they are supposed to be the voice of the people, see and say what they see. Now, but in recent times, just like you did mention some infiltration by the politics and all of that, and you also find out that even some politicians now own media houses, they own newspapers, they own, which are tailored towards what they want to put out there to people. Now, how has it impacted on democracy so far?
Well, it won't be a lie that in recent time, even before now, there has played a powerful tool and it has a powerful voice in terms of governance. If you look at the cases, not just in Nigeria, if you Africa, and look at some of the crises and genocides that took place, they all started from the media house. If you look at the case of Rwanda in 1994, if you look at Kenya, it shows that the media is a tool that the people use to know a final say what is happening. So in most cases, it's not about the media house. It's about, is there a journalist in that house? Because having an outfit that has media, electronical and other devices that can be used to maybe send information, even if it's print, media or electronical, it's one thing. But it's another thing for people who come in with pure art of journalism, people who will come and say, I'm a journalist, I'm not here to take sides, I'm here to just get the news and put it out there. Now these media houses will be designed, and most times you find that the media houses have no philosophy guiding them. So there is a media house without a philosophy. Now it's because the motive behind the media house is different. So there is no philosophy, the station is just there, or the TV house is just there. But when it's time for propaganda, these media houses will be used.
Okay. Now, from what you have said, one thing just keeps occurring to me. You talked about owning a media house and then journalists who are operating that. That means people, the journalists are also still members of the society.
Of course.
They are still affected by actions or misactions or inactions of key players in a democracy. Does it mean that the philosophy of who pays the piper dictates the tune overrides a whole lot of issues that deadens the sensibilities of people about money? You just have to do whatever you are asked to do, rather than trying to uphold the tenets of democracy,
of course,
using that platform as a media.
That happens in reasons that we're far away from. We all know the cases of unemployment. We know the condition of people trying to feed, trying to get houses to live in, trying to go by day to day. So when things like this happen, people now are in a position whereby you're not looking for a job because of your passion. You're looking for a job because you need to feed. You have mouths at home that are waiting for you. So it reaches a point where someone now compromises and decides, you know, if I do this a little, it wouldn't really affect. After all, it came from my overall. That's what we had a talk recently where I said, it's not about following what is good in the sight of your boss, or what is good in the sight of the company itself. Because your boss might resign or retire, or maybe unforeseen circumstances, he passes away. Then what happens now? Another person takes over, and let's say he tilts towards the other or the position, the people who are in power. Now you will now find yourself trying to switch from being the attack dog of the other person to this person, which is what we notice in most state government-owned media houses, One moment you're fighting this party, tomorrow the party changes and now you have to be fighting. You now become the confused person in the whole picture. So most times the problem now falls back to all the things that are affecting our society in terms of well-being, which makes people tend to say, let me just compromise and go outside what I will do. After all, this will get me paid.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Now let me come to you, Mr. Vito. Just like in the case, it appears to be a dilemma for the media houses, civil society organizations, do they face such challenges? For instance, now, most times that the civil society they are operating, they always put relevant sections of the constitution that they are trying to uphold and all of that. And then at the end of the day, they might have to have recourse to the legal institution, the courts and the laws. And you find out that most times, the people that head these courts are somehow aligned to one government or the other, which the civil society might be fighting against. Now, in that kind of scenario, what's the way out and how do they navigate around?
Well, you see, in the case where civil society organization is actually questioning the agenda and decides that maybe one of the best ways to go about it is to go through the courts. And then, like you said, maybe the court aligns with the government in power, which means they might not really want to give judgment in favor of the civil society organization and against the government. If they don't want to do that, then that is just rather unfortunate, and then that is not the fault of the civil society organization. Now, this is government trying to kill the confidence of people in the very institutions that should give the little common man hope. So if a institutional organization say we are going to court against the government, it means that they have faith in the judicial system that the judge or that the courts are going to do what is right. But if in the fear of saying because they want to go against the government, then it means that that confidence that people have in the court will just gradually reduce, which is what we are presently seeing today. Not so many people have faith in the court, but then just that at some point you don't have any other way to go than to go through the court, hoping that they have something good will come, or maybe the judge that you gets to handle the case will be judged that is fearless and goes no favor.
Like a case, like when you were talking initially, you did mention some civil society organizations. You mentioned the SERAP. And you know that over time, you can't just turn the pages of the newspaper without seeing SERAP either suing the federal government or asking the courts to compel the president to do this or the governor of this to do that. And you never get to hear these cases. You never get to hear the outcome. They don't get reprieve. What do you really think should a civil society organization in such cases? Because you just keep piling up issues in the courts and it doesn't get heard. The president is not called to come out and defend himself. You don't see action, and you know that at the end of it all, the civil society is trying to protect, or there are some interests they are fighting in instituting all these cases. So it appears their function is already defeated.
No, it's not always defeated. You know, in the recent case of Sarah, we say that they have actually gotten a few court decisions that went their way compelling, but then it is one thing, as you have seen so far in this particular government, it's one thing for the court to give their judgment, and it's one thing for the government to abide by that court decision. Of course, the court has given, when the Sarah went to court asking the federal government to make details of the amount of money that has been given to state, yes, they actually got judgment in their favor, compelling the federal government to release these details, and a few other judgments like that. But all of these, very few of them were actually adhered to, and then the rest were totally ignored by the government, which decisions were given.
And then Sarah instituted these cases as a civil society organization with its own mandate to pursue. Now, when they get ignored, so what should be the? You
know, that just there's basically I just say. Now the thing is, the lesson judiciary is just the last hope, is the last resort that everybody goes to after calling for, say, open your books, let us see what it is, and the government is refusing to open the books. Then therefore they go to court, and court has given judgment. Now the thing is, no matter what you might think, you will always have to go to court with the idea that you are going into the presence of somebody who is neutral, somebody where you expect to basically get justice, and that is what they do now. SERAP does not concern itself much about the things that goes on in the judiciary when it comes to terms of reform or anything. They are more about accountability and transparency in government. So it's the reason why they are always going to court. They know it's only when they go to court that they can actually get this. It is more about things of people like SERAP and other civil organizations that we came about having the Establishment of Freedom of Information, which up to now that is a law that's certain government offices do not respect. How many people write this information and then they get this information? Not so many people.
All right, like it is mentioned, freedom of information, which is what about the media, see it, say it as it is. And we've seen a lot of times the media, like we've also established the fact that the influence of politics and all of that. And sometimes the media houses can't exactly say what they've seen. And at the end of the day, it is democracy that is being suppressed. It's the voice of the people, or a status quo that's supposed to change if the media has given it enough voice or amplified it enough for people to take notice. Now, in that kind of scenario, what should be the media thinking in terms of reforming and ensuring at the end of it all, the dividend of democracy gets to the people?
Well, one of the things we know is the media was in the forefront when there was this agitation for Freedom of Information Bill, where they were free to air information gotten, because things we get or many information that is passed, but a media house starts to think about sanctions from the NBC, NCC and all. Most times you notice that, or in recent times you notice most of them being faced with a situation whereby your license is revoked or you want to renew and you're having a problem with a renewal because of what threat you pose to the government of the day with your media house. Most of them now resort to channels where you cannot have a control over them. Now, the main thing about the media is to put the story out there. You see, where you even see the working together of the CSOs with the media is there to put the story out there. The CSOs are there to make that story known. Now, in most cases, you'll find out the media might not be a mediator between maybe there is a fracas or something. They cannot be the mediator, but they can be a channel for the mediators. For instance, if we are having rape cases on the increase, we are having communal clashes and bandits, the rise of bandits on a daily, and you are now thinking, how do we stop this? It doesn't stop only when the man or the woman who is in that society that is being affected is crying and protesting. It stops when we have people like the First Lady coming out to condemn it. It happens when people who are looked upon as authorities are coming out to condemn it. Now, you cannot come out to condemn it and every other person, except that you are playing it with the media. The civil society is on the other side playing their own role, which is what? To bring those who have been indulging in this thing to light, and to help those who are victims to seek justice. If they cannot get a lawyer, the civil society will provide one, as most civil society organizations already have lawyers who do pro bonos for cases of that nature. But the media has to make sure these stories are not buried. It is out there. Everybody knows this is happening.
All right, thank you so very much. Now let me come to you finally, because we are wrapping up. Now, you've seen Arab Spring. Talk about, I think we've heard about the Arab Spring. Yeah, Arab Spring. We talk about revolutions everywhere, and also our own revolution now that did not get to happen. You find out that behind all of this is some form of movement, civil society. In Nigeria, we started hearing coalition and all of that. So now, given so many ills that needs to be corrected in the society, and then given efforts of civil society that gets ignored even to when they get to the last hope of the common man. So what do you really think in terms of revolution for getting things done the right way? I'm not talking about a violent revolution right now. How can the civil society really engineer a revolution that will impact directly and positively on democracy?
No, actually, they are not on it already. So we are seeing, just like you said, revolution and the basic what is revolution, to just change the way we get to do things. And so with the effort of some very notable civil society organizations, CSO, like Budget, that also came up with Tracker, now we found out that there are state governments that are willing to put out their budget out in public. So now there's a little bit more of transparency by the efforts of these guys. So you also have people who actually stand, like you were saying, a CSO that basically stand on human rights in terms of rape victims. Right now, the cases of rape is not being in the forefront. It's not being discussed in the National Assembly, looking for what are the best way to go to this and curtail these issues. So it goes on like that. There are other, I could basically still go in terms of elections. Yes, for instance, came up with a reform that say, let us cut down the age limit for young people. That has been done. That has changed. We still have other organizations who are also bent on that electoral reforms. So you have the electoral reforms of 2010, then go on to 2011. So we had the one that was passed by Elisan Saraki, which I believe that was like the best that we've ever had in Nigeria. Then we also have one right now in the Senate, basically. So these are things that we already, so they are already engineering that revolution. We are not a people that really take to that violence. So it's the reason why sometimes when we experience violence, it seems kind of strange to us, wondering why people are doing that. So we have CSO, the genuine CSO, the work they're doing, they do it behind the scenes, sort of, you might say, writing papers, writing some policy papers, pushing this agenda, writing, putting pressure through campaigns or whether protests on the streets or maybe campaigns on social media until the person is supposed to see it. Sometimes they might not totally dedicate to it, but for the fact that it's been out, they might do a decent portion of it. We have seen SARS and SARS still CSO. Though not much has changed, but now it's now in the front that look, these people, this is what they do. And so right now, every IG that comes or every police commander that comes knows that he needs to do something. He needs to now tread a little bit carefully with this holding. So already we are engineering that revolution that we want to see.
All right, now we have your last word, politics. Edo elections, so many elections, 2023. A whole lot of focus is going to all those elective places. And then there's all about democracy. How do we sustain our democracy? What lessons are we going to take from the past elections, 2015, 2019, moving forward? What would be your blueprint for a real democracy this time? So what would be my own blueprint is that I'll just go back to the same issue of these electoral reforms. We need to basically have them. So when you look at 2015, okay, it was improvement. Then 2019 took us 3 steps back, or even basically more than that. And then when I'm looking at this year, 2020, then 2023, as going forward. So we need those sort of reforms. I think we need to look into, for the fact that this president refused to assent to the one that Saraki signed into law. I could understand some certain reasons why, but then I would not understand why he would totally discard that electoral reform. So going forward, I don't think we will be able to see that in this Edo election, but then it will be more of this kind of education by INEC and by civil society organizations within the state, or who have interest in Edo State, go there and sorry, not just Edo and Ondo State as well. And also there's 2023. Yeah, and let people know. But now within now and 2023, we'll be looking forward to seeing that the reforms that right now is National Assembly, that they should be passed. Okay. Yes, and because from what we have on board, it is not totally bad. It actually still gives us some hope if we see it being passed and all of that. All right, your final blueprint.
Well, I would say if we can work out a way to keep sensitizing the public about free and fair election, to be able to avoid what we call, they call it transactional election, where it is your vote is a transaction. If we can work on that to expose things that happen as media persons, expose polling units, what is happening there, who are the people there. If you see anything there, let the world see this is what happened there. I think if we have that fear from the politicians to those who are coming out to vote, to those who are going to be serving as party agents, having the fear that the world is watching you and the world will know if this was transactional, if there was something given for people to come out and vote, will go a long way. It's just about awareness. And that is the reason why this particular reform I'm talking about right now in the National Assembly is very important, because it provides, like in
including some former amendments or principal acts, they didn't provide. In fact, it was really stated that you cannot carry a device to the polling units. But right now, in this new proposed amendments, there's a recent provision there that allows you can go to your polling units with a device to record, take whatever pictures, record videos. If you want. So now, if people go there and they record the process, like you're saying, then it means it is now available to the media, which in turn they now amplify this thing. So now people get to know that yes, you are now being watched, so you can't do as you want to do.
Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you
sharing
very
your
much.
thoughts. It's been so overwhelming, in fact. All right, let's hope the viewers, and let's hope especially the institutions, let's hope the key players, the actors, they listen to you and they're taking from your blueprint that you're giving us for a good democracy, so that hopefully come 2023, not just 2023, from tomorrow, or from today actually, because it starts now. Let's hope it will evolve a real democracy and the society gets better for all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
That has been Mr. Victor Temba and May 11 sharing their thoughts on impact of media and the civil society on Nigeria democracy and giving their own blueprints on how to make it better. Now, the question is, what are you doing to contribute to good governance in your own sphere of influence? Remember, good governance is all about you, and it all begins with you. Think about it while we'll go on a break now, and when we return, we'll take you to the National Assembly for updates on happenings around lawmaking in recent times.
Coronavirus no be our friend, yo. Make we push and come out, yo. Corona, no be our friend, yo. Say make we push and come out, yo.
My country people, you see this coronavirus, no be joke. Make we help ourselves and our government pursue this yamayama sickness from our country. Make we remember to wash our hand every time with soap and water. Make we not forget to sanitize our hand and wear face mask when we come out. Also, make we avoid crowd and keep social distancing when we come out. My people, if you see you don't get symptoms, make you rush go hospital make them treat you. Coronavirus, no be our friend though. Make we remember say prevention better pass cure.
Coronavirus no be our friend, yo. Make we push and come out, yo. Corona, no be our friend, yo. Say make we push and come out, yo.
Throughout the nation, nobody will find, nothing will happen. We hope so.
We can do anything. We are ready to die for our right.
Don't fight, don't be anything. Just go and vote, stay and wait for the results.
Welcome back. Time now to tell you what has happened in the National Assembly in recent times. While the last has not been heard about the financial infractions and misappropriations in the NDDC, the House of Representatives, before going on recess last week, set in motion moves to investigate alleged corrupt practices and misappropriation of 100 billion naira in the Northeast Development NDDC, following a motion of urgent importance moved by Honorable Ndudi Elumelu, the House Minority Leader, at plenary on Thursday, the 23rd of July, 2020. Let's check out the reports. While debating the motion, Elumelu noted that the NEDC, which was set up to ameliorate the suffering of the displaced people of the war-ravaged region, is immersed in serious corruption and mismanagement of over 100 billion naira. The lawmaker, who described the situation as disturbing, says if the consistent abuse of the procurement laws is not checked quickly, the purpose for the establishment of the commission may be defeated.
The 100 billion sought to the commission by the federal government is said to have vanished without any visible impact on the refugees nor any infrastructural development credited to the name of the commission in the whole of the Northeast. Worried that there are allegations of how the MD and his close associates diverted the funds meant for the commission to the purchasing of church properties in highbrow neighborhoods of Abuja, Kaduna, and Maiduguri, to the detriment of the suffering refugees and infrastructural development. further worried that there are allegations of how also the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Disaster Management was said to have entered into an unholy deal with the MD of the Commission to illegally withdraw the sum of 5 billion from the account of the Commission to purchase military vehicles without any recourse to the board on acts which completely disregard the country's procurement laws.
He therefore called on the Committees on Finance, Procurement and Northeast Development Commission to investigate the infractions and report back in 8 weeks for further legislative action. Moving on now, also in the past week, the House of Representatives continued on its ongoing probe of the power sector in its bid to unravel the mystery behind the inability of the critical sector to deliver steady appearance despite huge funds spent on revamping the sector as well as privatization moves by the government. Now, the House Committee on Power, at its sitting on Thursday, the 23rd of July, frowned at the inability of the Central Bank Governor Godwin Emefiele to make himself available at the panel for submission. The House Leader, Al-Hassan Ado Doguwa, who chaired the committee, stated that the Central Bank Governor Godwin Emefiele is making their job practically impossible, whereas the process should not be taken for granted.
I want to say without any fear of contradiction that the attitude of the Central Bank Governor towards this assignment, the assignment of the Parliament, which is of course a great concern to the people of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, is unfortunate. And we will not allow anybody, no matter how high placed he is, to hold our work to ransom. These are 2-3 critical presentations you have made, which ordinarily the presence of the Central Bank Governor will have provided us clarifications or answers. But I do not see a reason why this man, acting in the capacity of the appointment of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria under a democratic setting, will continue to denigrate the integrity and the powers of the National Assembly as an institution.
In his submission, the Accountant General of the Federation said his office is always aware of debts from Debt Management Office because of the synergy between them.
We are all aware that government has put in place vehicles and framework for addressing power development projects in this country. I have mentioned about MBET and some other agencies. So there is no direct funding from the Treasury now, but through the instrumentality of those agencies. MBET is there. The way they get their funding, I believe, should be critical to this committee, and you should know. And that's it.
Meanwhile, the Director General, Debt Management Office, Patience Oniha, affirms that every disbursement of capital projects passes through the Office of the Accountant General for approval.
It's not a loan to the DMO, it's a loan from the Central Bank to MBET, and that process passed through the Federal Executive Council. It is to enable, the chair power is here. You know that what MBET gets from the discos is less than what it needs to pay the GENCO.
The committee, however, resolved that 48 hours be given to the Accountant General for further submission on the disbursement of taxpayers' funds. Now, it is indeed worrisome that despite government's regulatory framework, huge expenditure and private sector participation, constant supply of adequate electricity is still a challenge in Nigeria. Now, the need to identify the root causes of the continued moribund nature of the Nigerian electricity supply industry and recommend a roadmap for the revitalization of the sector to the House for further legislative actions cannot be overemphasized. Now, let's take you to the Red Chambers, where the Nigerian Senate had asked the now defunct Interim Management Committee, IMC, of the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, to refund the sum of 4.9 billion naira payments made to staff and members of commission in breach of procurement immediate effect, by also calling on the dissolution of the agency's Interim Management Committee. In a detailed report which was submitted to the Senate plenary on Thursday by the committee chairman investigating the alleged financial recklessness in the NDDC, Senator Olubimi Adetokunbi, it was revealed that the NDDC spent 1.334 trillion naira in 5 years. He said the IMC was involved in reckless spending where they spent based on cash accounting and not based on the budget.
We found out that the audit system within the NDC is very weak and complicit, and even the external audit report that we received contains virtually no information. We found in a lot of cases where unjustifiable payments were made to staff of the NDDC. They should be made to refund these monies.
The lawmakers said the IMC spent a whooping sum of 81.5 billion in 3 months, lamenting that the money was not spent on development-oriented infrastructure in line with the mandate of the NDDC.
If you look at the contents of this report, the President, the Interim Management Committee has spent more money in a period of pandemic where we are all expected to be at home. We must review the law of NDDC. We must compel people to do what is right for the people of Niger Delta.
And I'm happy that those who are charged with this responsibility are in people of Niger Delta. There is no Northern Nigeria or people from Southwest. So you expect them to be extremely patriotic and committed to the welfare of their people. It is painful to see Niger Delta people in pedigree, and you gave them responsibility over 1 trillion naira went down the drain. Who are you going to hold responsible?
I expect to see a massive protest over this fraud in the Niger Delta Development Commission. But yet nothing is happening because everybody is waiting for his own opportunity.
What has happened in NDDC, what is happening around, there's a cause for it. It's lack of impunity. When we don't take people accountable for what they're given, when we don't jail them, when we don't take action on them. Yesterday we talked about power. The other day we talked about another section. Is all looting. That's what is happening every day.
It is our opinion in the National Assembly, particularly in the Senate, that this report has exposed the inefficiencies, the kind of corruption in the NDDC. I am sure that our report will receive the kind of attention that we all desire and expect.
The upper legislative chamber recommended that the NDDC be returned to the presidency for supervision with the setting of supervisory board by governors of the 9 Niger Delta states. Well, the presidency did heed to the decision of the National Assembly and had dissolved the Interim Management Commission of the NDDC, which many had argued to be an illegal body and should have been in place. It is left to see if the dissolved management will acquiesce to the Senate and make the reforms as directed. And someone also asked, what next for the development commissions in Nigeria after all this? Well, time will tell. That has been updates from the National Assembly, and still to come on the program, Restructuring Nigeria, a case for the viability of the Nigerian states. Join us again. Many thanks for staying tuned. This is Democratic Blueprint, and in the contemporary world today, the need to decentralize government and administration to facilitate efficiency, effectiveness, and good governance has become the rule rather than the exception, both in developed and developing countries. Restructuring is one word that has trended for decades and seems to be an intergenerational topical issue in Nigeria. Now, the persistent call for restructuring takes numerous dimensions, but particularly outstanding is the dimension of politics. Now, it is no surprise, though, because the philosophy behind the existence of every state and the control of its resources borders on politics. It was a major campaign issue in the build-up to the 2015 general elections and has continued to dominate discussions among stakeholders in Nigeria ever since. But perhaps the underlying question that has been a knotty issue over time has been the viability of some states in Nigeria, especially in the face of the dwindling oil resources, which has been the mainstay of the Nigerian states for decades now. Let's take a look at the special report on restructuring and the viability of the Nigerian states.
The call for the restructuring of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the consideration of the viability of states and constitutionalizing the sixth geopolitical of the distribution of Nigerian resources. According to the United Nations Perception Index of 2019 report, northern states rank the poorest, and 9 of the top 10 poorest states in Nigeria are from the northern region, with Sokoto, Taraba, Jigawa being the poorest. A report released by a budget tracking organization reveals that Lagos, Rivers, Akwa Ibom, and Kano states are the only economically viable states in Nigeria. In the report titled State of States, says that 32 other states depend on federal allocation to survive. The report, which has been presented by the Research and Policy Analysis Lead, says economies of states are mostly tied to informal trade and skeletal industrial output, with the exception of Lagos, Rivers, Delta, Ogun, and Akwa Ibom states. The report also reads, of a truth, most Nigerian states have not figured out how to harness their collective strength and establish a single focus on investment products, thereby becoming the fulcrum of productivity and not just fact distribution centers.
About reshuffling, rearranging, especially when a structure is not working. You are at liberty to rearrange.
I think it's a process that, when enshrined in the Constitution and practiced properly, can actually help to get Nigeria out of its current quagmire. The 36 state structure and the Federal Capital Territory, making 37, is actually not working, clearly. You have some states that are virtually bankrupt, they can't really get it. And it's not as if there are no resources in all the states, but whether a state is viable or not depends on the ingenuity of the governor of the state.
58 years after independence, we are confronted today with the imperative of defending a future for Nigeria that escapes our country's past. The essence of a federation, such as we had under the 1960 and 1963 constitutions, is an agreement to form it by its constituent units, and an appropriate balance of power between the constituent units and the center. Virtually every region of Nigeria is now responding to and accepting willingly or because of political pressure the quest and call for the restructuring of Nigeria. The proponents of the restructuring maintains that anyone who does not benefit from the state has the right to question being part of its unity. There is a general feeling of inferiority and superiority complex among the components of the Nigerian Federation. Some regard others as parasites and others as betrayers.
But if we create a constitutional framework where the geopolitical zones become the confederating units that make up the country, then the friction becomes reduced, then development becomes more even, and then we begin to see, the sort of progress that we want this country to achieve unleash itself, due to the collective engine of the current states becoming parts of a larger organization called the geopolitical zone.
There has been consolidating threats to the cohesion, further integration, and unity of the Nigerian state, with signs and symptoms of not only disaffection, but escalation of insecurities, conflict over revenue allocation and resource control, cattle rustling, kidnapping, cultism, armed banditry attacks on oil facilities and installations, bitter politics of ethno-religious and regional identities, ethno-religious intolerances, poverty, ethno-religious conspired and orchestrated Fulani headsmen and farmers' conflict, unemployment, socio-economic and infrastructural deteriorations, and above all, corruption. Altogether, these are the proponents heading towards a failed state if nothing is ever done.
You know, we've had so many conferences already in this country. The good thing is that the reports are there. We need to dust up those reports and implement them.
As we have in the 1963 document, that you develop your region or your state with what you have and take a portion, a percentage to the center. You won't see people coming to Abuja every month to come and receive allocation. You won't see them not working hard to raise revenue within their region or within their state. It is because everybody comes to the center every month to come and receive whatever it was as provided in this constitution. And that cannot be sustained. On the issue of viability of states, you see, the fear of the northern Nigeria against restructuring, I think is unfounded, sincerely, because the north is very well positioned to survive on its own.
Nigeria is genuinely, you know, a very viable country waiting to explode in a positive manner. And all we need to be able to get that is to have a leader who will have been hidden and suppressed by very primitive, primordial considerations for so long.
Continuity needs to be our major priority in this nation, Nigeria. When somebody has done something to a certain level, some people 70%, 80%, and another governor will come or president will come and we abandon such a project. No, it's not done. We need to incorporate the heartbeat of continuity in this nation, Nigeria, which I believe it will help our infrastructure and restructuring in this nation, Nigeria.
It could be confidently argued that no state in the world with such heterogeneities as Nigeria and undergoing these cumulative trials has survived secession, collapse, and failure of this integration. The states or regions should be allowed to develop and control their treasures and resources. With this, every state will be more responsible, and there will be a healthy competition across states to build a future for Nigeria.
Each of the locales within the Nigerian territory is endowed with either one mineral, vegetative, or other natural resources and a correspondent resident human resources. Now, in view of this, any knowledgeable administrative analyst will suggest the adoption of the federalist political structure so as to ensure efficient administration of both the vast territories of Nigeria and its ethno-tribal heterogeneous population, to harness all the potentials for economic recovery and self-reliance. Restructuring Nigeria is an ongoing discussion which has taken several dimensions and one which we will definitely revisit on this platform. Meanwhile, what are your thoughts on the issues we've discussed on this platform? Share your opinion and feel free to drop your own blueprint for a better democracy in Nigeria. Let's do this again same time on this platform. Thanks for watching. I am Charles Ibe.